The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the Rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big Papa Pump! It's your hookup! Holla! At the end of Woo, 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 woo! Cup of coffee in the big day.
It's Tuesday, and you know what that means, folks. It's Working the Marks here on Facebook Live via StreamYard, courtesy of Famcast Media. So thank you for tuning in from wherever, however you may be doing so. Here the 5th of March. And joining me here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, obviously the franchise lover of fat girls everywhere, Macho Rodrigez, our premier.
All women, baby. All women.
In the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. And certainly we have Dale Huevo, New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, and the very talented Puerto Rican musician there, the child actor in the great township of Weehawken. And folks, I am New Jersey's premier journalist and the most handsome face that runs the place. It's me, Fernando, Uribe. And happy Tuesday, everybody. Guys, how's everybody going here?
Estamos bien, papi. Estamos bien.
I'm okay. I'm pretty good, you know. I just wanted to gift you guys with a little song. So
I like it.
There you go. Here I am. Rock you like a hurricane, you know.
Fucking beautiful.
Nice to see you for once, Uribe.
Well, you know, I'm a busy guy there. It's election season, you know, got a lot of things going on. And
what did you meet with, like, the fucking Senate from, like, Alderaan and stuff like that?
No, you know, listen, you know, when you're
Commissioner Gordon, you met with Commissioner Gordon?
When you're New Jersey's premier journalist.
Let me see the red phone.
You know, when you're New Jersey's premier journalist, you're wanted everywhere, man. You just got to make appearances, you know, got to make the rounds, as they say. You know?
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah, I do. But I'll tell you one person making the rounds out of state, and that's our own Macho Rodriguez, folks. And you know, good to see him back from his trip to the great freedom-loving state of North Carolina and the Tar Heel State there, as Macho's in attendance this Sunday.
I am a Tar Heels fan.
AEW Revolution, and the last match in the 40-year career of Steve Borden, who we affectionately have all known for this time as Sting. And I got to tell you, before we get into sort of the highs and lows of Revolution, Mach, what was it like in that building? It looked like it was pretty full. I would argue it was probably AEW's fullest show in North America, and probably since, and again, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but just the optics itself, it kind of reminds me of like Grand Slam 2021 out in Queens at the Arthur Ashe Center. I don't recall an AEW show being almost sold out. The hard cam section was full. Building looked pretty full. Kind of a rarity in AEW, man. But what was that building like on Sunday?
Well, it was packed as fuck. I'll tell you what, like the line was all the way from, I was telling Pat, from where I parked all the way through to the building, up the ramp into the building. There were people everywhere. There was no way to get to a concession stand because there was a line all the way down the side of the building for the concession stands. I mean, it was definitely packed.
You mean merch?
Yeah, for merch. No, I'm talking food as well.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like food as well. Like the only thing that me and Arthur were able to get were like boiled peanuts, because that's something in North Carolina.
Can I just interject 1 second? That right there is bad management. That's bad management. You know that you're having this kind of an event, right? You're going to draw X amount of people. Why aren't you better prepared? That falls on the facility, and that falls on AEW, because AEW should have been better prepared for that. You know what I mean? What an inconvenience to fans. You take that trek, you want to buy merchandise commemorating Sting, a B-level legend. You know, like, come on, man. You know, like, let's like, you know, let's be prepared. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, but go ahead, continue with your little Sting story. It's nice.
Yeah.
But Macho, real quick, just to piggyback on what Pat said, I don't disagree with Dale Huevo in the sense of like that observation. But I think that sometimes, right? I mean, Pat, you can tell me. I mean, again, you guys having worked in the business, you know, knowing like the logistics, let's say, of a small building to maybe a medium-sized building. But it just seems like, I mean, I just remember going to SmackDown in December at Barclays, and I remember that. I mean, other than and for anyone that is familiar with sort of the landscape of Barclays and sort of the lobby ground level of the facility before you get to your seats, I mean, dude, I literally walked around the entire venue and there were literally just 3 merch stands, and lines were pretty long. I kind of missed the first few minutes of the show. Again, smaller things. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that based on space available, I don't know how you can remedy that other than having a merch stand every 500 feet either. I don't know. Again, I'm just brainstorming out loud about something to that extent. How do you really fix this?
The problem is that it was really set up for March Madness. It wasn't set up for a wrestling show.
Gotcha.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the arena itself, a lot of the March Madness games will take place in that arena. It's going to be a neutral site. So there was a lot of stuff like that, but it was just, I mean, it was nice though. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and complain. It reminded me a lot of the Giants Center here in Pennsylvania. It was very clean, very nice. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's the first time I went to an arena where the bathroom lines were full, where I was able to go to the bathroom whenever I wanted. You know what I mean? That was different as opposed to, the merchandise. There was half the arena was wearing Sting shit. There was old ladies wearing Sting makeup. Everybody was there specifically for Sting. I really think people forgot Will Ospreay was on the show until he came out.
Well, we'll get to Will in a little bit, but Mach, again, as soon as the show started, I mean, you could see that the AEW production, the TV crew, they were very adamant at all times to really drone that building, right? To kind of, again, I know you were there. You didn't have a chance to watch it live.
No, but I did watch the pay-per-view yesterday.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I mean, so you had a chance to watch the replay and see sort of the camera angles, but you could tell from the start they were
doing your show
about making sure that you could see that building was full.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, if someone can, again, if it serves my recollection, next to Grand Slam in September of 2021, I don't remember another arena event, pay-per-view event for AEW that looked
Arthur Ashe.
No, I'm saying Grand Slam 21, but between Arthur Ashe and this Sunday, I got to be honest with you, man. I don't, Double or Nothing's their premier event in Vegas. That, I mean, even the T-Mobile Arena, which holds more people than the Greensboro Coliseum, didn't look as full. The United Center even hasn't looked. I mean, you know what? My bad. The first dance when Punk debuted in August of 2021. Okay, I'll give you that one. That looked pretty 20,000.
But it's the camera work though, Fernando. That's the thing. It's the camera work. So let's just say they have a layout where it's just the lower bowl. They're never going to show the upper part. They're just going to probably show the bottom bowl and stuff like that.
Sure.
Get tighter shots, get closer to the ring and stuff like that.
No,
you know
what
I mean?
But I remember even the first dance, United States was pretty full, even upper tier a little bit. And from what I could tell Sunday, it looked like even the upper tier of Greensboro.
Yes, it was full the whole way up. It was full everywhere, from the floor, from first row all the way up. And
because it's Sting.
Yes, surely because.
Hey, you know what sucks is I didn't even know until I watched the pay-per-view that there were legends in the front row.
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, next to Nikita Koloff,
Ricky Steamboat,
Scotty Riggs,
American male Scotty Riggs.
Yep, I don't recall.
Fucking bro, he should be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't recall seeing too many other legends out there. I know that there's some contractual snafus that prevent that. I know Kevin Nash had expressed on his show, that he wanted to be there again. WWE was not
Luger. Yeah, Luger was there.
No, yeah, I'm saying, but Nash, and I think I'm not sure if other people had expressed.
You said legends, so make sure you're respectful to Lex Luger. He's a fucking legend.
No, he is. But what I'm saying is, for example, people like Kevin Nash, who obviously worked with Steve Borden for some years.
Yeah, but Lex Luger means more to the business than Kevin Nash does. So
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind. There isn't anything.
Mind.
Okay, here's the best way to put it. Lex Luger's the greatest United States champion of all time. What is Kevin Nash in the business?
a dude that made a bunch of money that's still making a bunch of money off of a fucking gimmick that he was in. So keep your fucking title, Lex.
No, he can have the title.
That's
what
all.
I mean.
That's all you need to do at the end of the day. Who gives a fuck about these phony belts?
But Lex
You're making
Luger-
money off your gimmick. Straight
Lex
up.
Luger's gimmick it made
What
money.
gimmick? What gimmick? More people
The
talk
total
about him killing Miss
package.
Elizabeth than anything else.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, other than Luger, again, Nikita Koloff, Ricky Steamboat, Scotty Riggs, it would have been great to see more legends and peers. But again, obviously, that's the least of what my complaints are.
Here's something
Ric Flair
interesting.
was there.
Here's something.
Ric Flair was there.
I'm sorry. Well, Ric Flair was in his. Well, yes, Ric Flair theoretically was in the corner, right? But he was there. It would have been nice to see more. But again, it's sort of like, grasping at straws here about what I didn't like about Revolution or what I didn't like about the pay-per-view. Again, the event itself looked packed. To Pat's point, yes, the camera angles make a difference, but it looked pretty full. Again, a very surprising. Let me rephrase. Not surprising since it was Sting's last match, so you knew that Greensboro was going to get close to a sellout. Not sure if exactly sellout. Tony Khan.
I thought it wasn't sold out.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, Tony Khan embellishes attendance numbers, so I don't like to always take Tony Khan's word about attendance, but it looked.
It was announced to sell out. Over
It was,
16,000 people there.
I mean, it was refreshing to see.
That makes sense. That's an honest sellout because again, the draw was Sting. The draw was Sting's last match.
I mean, it was refreshing to see people on the hard cam side actually sitting there for once because we rarely see that at an AEW show. But again, it looked like the building was electric. There was a buzz to it. Macho, when did you get to your seat and what was sort of like as you're walking in, right? What was the buzz? What was sort of like the chatter online with people as they're walking in? Like, how did you, again, as a devoted Sting fan, and obviously everybody there in the building was as well. What was the into that building?
A lot of the people. So I was in like row AA, and like a lot of the people that were there, we all kind of agreed that the stage in the arena was kind of set up like a Monday Night Raw. Like it wasn't really set up like a pay-per-view.
Okay.
Like I've been to pay-per-views before. I've been to Survivor Series in Philly where Batista and Booker T face each other in the cage match, right? Like that was the CM Punk with DX. That was that pay-per-view. I've been to that.
Great,
like,
great.
The feel of a pay-per-view, like the weight of it. That like you can tell, like even the way the arena's set up, the way the stage is set up. Like this didn't feel like that. This felt like just an upscale version of their Dynamite.
Okay.
Like even like that's just the kind of way it felt. And then I gotta be honest with you. One of the things that took a lot of us out of it, like the people that were sitting around, is whoever the fuck the ring announcer is, that guy is awful. Like,
Justin Roberts, isn't it?
Dude, he sounds like he is pushing everything out. Like I don't know. Like it didn't even sound good. Like when he said it's Sting, like it was just like, nah, man, just like.
Well,
they didn't get Tony Schiavone to do that one last time.
No, they
Wow.
he did that for like the pay-per-view.
Right.
For the people live in attendance. No, it was that was Justin Roberts.
Yeah. Well, what's
Dude,
interesting, I think, man, let's be fair that, WWE has just had so many great ring announcers for decades. And let's be fair, man, they've cornered the market now with Samantha Irvin and the gentleman that works on SmackDown on Fridays. The name is
Mike Rome.
Mike Rome.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about first of all, the lungs on those two individuals is crazy. And I think for a very long time, Justin Roberts, I think, was a very good ring announcer, but I'm with you on that because I think there were plenty of entrances during the evening, whether it was FTR, whether it was Ospreay, whether it was Sting, whether it was the 8-man scramble match. I didn't feel Roberts was as good as he's been. Again, he's been in the business quite some time. He's been over for at least a decade. I'm not saying, listen, I mean, Howard Finkel was in it for 30 years. But the point is that, like, I'm with you. I too share that disappointment of what Justin Roberts has become. Because, again, when he first debuted in AEW, he was fresh. He had been out of the business for some years. It was sort of like, oh, you can't really miss me unless I'm gone, right? So I think people relish that with Justin Roberts. That might not be the case anymore, but we'll see. But let's get to the show itself.
Real quick before you segue into that, Fernando, I know you were talking about some points of contention for some fans. Big surprise with fucking wrestling fans. But Wrestling Observer Radio, and again, take this with a grain of salt, but this is what Dave Meltzer's reporting. He said, just because this will be a talking point after the show, if there is no WWE-owned footage, Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid-South, WCW, and WWE libraries are all owned by WWE. It's because WWE was never asked for that favor. I'm not saying that they would have done it, but unless something happened midweek, nobody had asked. So as we saw at the pay-per-view, apparently they didn't use any of that footage, correct? They just used the Japanese footage, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Actually, no. Believe it or not, the way they got around the footage,
the pictures,
is just the pictures from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and from shows. And I was like, that's pretty smart. Yeah. If you're not going to get the footage, and again, I got to say, based on, again, we'll take Meltzer. Uncle Dave is about as reliable as I don't know, but if Tony Khan didn't approach Nick Khan and Paul Levesque or TKO about even using some footage, it's not like, do you think Tony Khan would say, here's $1 million, can I just get 10 minutes of footage? I don't know if that conversation ever took place. Obviously it did not, based on what Pat's reporting is. But I think at the end of the day, if Tony didn't even make the attempt where he's printing money, I think that bad job by Tony Khan. Well, you get something, $1 million for 10 minutes of footage, and you can mash it up and use it. Again, really,
I disagree. I think it benefits him more to do what he's doing now, because that just makes WWE look like the bad guys even more to his base. So he's just appealing to his base more.
There was a lot of discussion, like while we were waiting in line, and there was a lot of discussion just sitting around before the actual show started at the lack of mention of two of Sting's biggest feuds, and the fact that they couldn't use the footage, knowing that like without these two guys, Sting wouldn't be where he is, and that was Rick Rude and Vader. There was like no mention of these guys at all. There was no video packages or anything. And that was a big deal, because that bull rope match with Vader is one of the most famous Sting matches. He lost that match, and it's one of his highest rated matches he's ever had. His international championship match with Rick Rude, that match, is one of the biggest matches ever.
And that was the match that was the match that ultimately canceled Rick Rude's career, basically, right? Is that the one that ended his career?
No, that's the one where Harley Race hit him like with the chair, but it was like the worst chair shot ever, right as he was trying to hit the neck breaker.
Okay, I thought Rick
Rude. There was another match. Yes, I know what match you're talking about. The one you're talking about, Sting does a plancha dive to the outside, and Rick Rude falls, because that's when they had the ring lifted on like its own thing. And Rick Rude falls back, and he hits his back kind of like the way Shawn Michaels did in '98 Rumble.
Got you.
And that was the match that messed up his career, because Sting used to do that dive to the outside before The Undertaker did it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. No, listen, Macho, great point there. Certainly not having footage. Again, I think they got around it by just showing a lot of great pictures from PWI. Again, credit to Bill Apter, who for years was not just the editor, but going to shows and getting great photos, throughout the years, obviously, for Sting's career. But let's dive into this. For me, I don't want to break down each match, but I think that, I would give the show a B, only because I think it was one of AEW's better shows in quite some time in terms of pay-per-views. To say nothing of the fact that now it seems like Tony Khan is very invested in making literally a pay-per-view a month now. Obviously it was announced on Sunday night that Dynasty will emanate somewhere in April, and then obviously we have the marquee event, Double or Nothing, from Las Vegas, and then we have Forbidden Door emanating from Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens in like June, and then obviously there isn't an event in July.
We should go to that shit.
But then look at Pat. Pat's like, nah, I'd rather slam my dick in a car door. That's the face he's giving right now.
I do got some notes for you here, like biggest pops of the night. I noticed like the pops that I thought were crazy. Besides Sting, he got the biggest pop, so we're just gonna move him aside because it's his show. But the biggest pops of the night, and this is why I feel like Will Ospreay got one of the biggest pops, and I believe it's because people legit forgot he was there because of like the lack of build, to like all of a sudden he shows up last week and he's like, oh, you're wrestling a guy that's in your own group. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. One of the biggest pops was Jeff Jarrett. I mean, I think it's just because it was in the South.
Yeah.
Like that was a monster pop. Orange Cassidy.
He's probably related to most of the people in the crowd. That's why.
Probably, yeah. Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm.
I can believe that. Yeah, I mean, you could see again Tony Storm doing the best character work of her career. The match looked a little sloppy to me with Deonna. Again, not an indictment of either of them, but it looked sloppy. It wasn't, I think, the best match Tony Storm has had as champion. I'm sure the feud is not over. Obviously, Deonna not losing cleanly doesn't really weaken her. I mean, obviously, it sets up the potential.
I mean, we've had two big returns in professional wrestling this year with Nia Jax and Deonna Purrazzo, and it sucks that Deonna can't even hold a candle to Nia Jax right now. It's just
that is true. That is
listen,
true. Nia's on a really good run right now.
No, she certainly is. But again, sort of highs and lows here. I got to tell you, man, I understand Bryan Danielson's in a different phase of his career.
Yeah, me and Pat talked about this.
I get that audience loves and reveres Eddie Kingston. He's been in the business forever. He's been an indie darling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it about Eddie Kingston. I don't see the allure in him.
Why don't you get it? Have you ever smoked a Newport, Fernando?
No, I've never smoked cigarettes, so no. But I just look again. Listen, credit to Danielson, working with talent to put them over at this stage in his career. But the first thing I'm thinking about is really Eddie Kingston. Bro, you want to put over someone else? Like put over Ospreay, put over Takeshita, put over. Oh, I don't know about that.
I think I'll be honest. I mean, look, Kevin is a much better worker, no doubt, but it's not off. It's not off. Like it really isn't.
No, but
that's actually it's kind of a spot on take.
This match was so I've seen Bryan probably as much as I've seen any other wrestler in person, just like at just events, between Jersey All Pro Wrestling or just like WWE, going to see him in WWE. And this is the most disappointed I've ever been in a Bryan match. I said this to Pat.
Perfectly said,
dude. When I watched the pay-per-view, there was one thing that I said, like when I told Pat, I was like, yeah, the match was just super underwhelming. Like, that spot where like Eddie was hitting like his punches as Bryan's trying to like hit him, and he looked really weak.
Oh, the little thing he does in the corner, like
not that. Like he was doing, like he was pretending like his right, like because Bryan kicked the shit out of his right arm, so he was using his left arm for the punches. When I was watching it live, I was like, why do they look so weak? Like it's so crazy. Like sometimes things look weak, but they're not. Like the Big Show's knockout punch, I've seen it in person, and like it still looks brutal because his fucking hand's the size of a pumpkin. Yeah, but like when I watched the pay-per-view, I was like, wow, it looks like it's in slow motion. Like it just
very, very underwhelming. I thought that match was underwhelming.
I think I know what it is, guys. I think I have the solution to what's happening here. Okay, and I feel it too. Okay, I felt it a long time ago, which is why I've kind of tuned out to like what he's done in AEW. If I'm being 100% honest, but I think the problem is that we, as fans of wrestling, as Bryan Danielson fans, we are watching him and we're going, what the fuck? He should be doing way more. He shouldn't be doing this. I get that he's at the end of his career. I understand that. And I get that he's doing the right thing. He's putting over Eddie. He's doing all the stuff that he has to do. I understand that. And that's who he is. That's a testament to Bryan Danielson, the person and the wrestler.
Yeah.
But we all know that this man is a main event level talent.
Well, but again, from the very beginning, Tony Khan misused him. I mean, he came in hot and he faced Kenny Omega at the inaugural Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, 30-minute draw. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Probably AEW's greatest match ever, if we're being honest.
No question. And that's the moment when Tony Khan should have put the belt on Danielson.
Yep.
None of this, I get it. Oh, well, Hangman's a homegrown guy. He's on paternity leave. When he comes back, he deserves it because he's been, I'm sorry, go with the hot hand. Go with what makes money in the business. That's what Danielson theoretically would have been, because had he beaten Omega, I mean, he's coming in hot, former WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, beating Omega.
WrestleMania main eventer that year, too.
Main eventer on multiple occasions. I mean, Jesus Christ. From the get-go, Tony Khan has not really used him well. Sure, last year in the Iron Man match against MJF, that was a great match. Obviously, Danielson carried him in that match, no question. But, you know, as someone who likes to give out grades, in terms of Tony Khan's usage of Bryan Danielson in the 3 years he's had him, I'd say a C, maybe C minus.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, I have only, like, had a harsh judgment on someone one other time in my life of watching them live. Me and Pat went to a Ring of Honor versus Japan show at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I believe we went with your mom, right? We went with Carmen.
Yeah. My mom did come to the show. My mom hates wrestling. My mom hates wrestling, but she went.
And this was a great show. This had like Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kevin Steen. Yeah. This had the Ray Dragon versus the Young Bucks. And it had Jushin Thunder Liger, which was my first. I don't know if that was your first time, but that was my first and only time watching Jushin in person.
And I've seen Jushin 3 times between Jersey All Pro and Ring of Honor. I've seen him 3 times. I see Muda once.
Oh, that's
at an indie show.
That's like a dream.
Muda versus Sami Callihan.
That would mean as much to me as watching Sting live.
Bro, it was the shit. It was amazing.
I believe it. But like when I was there, I remember thinking to myself, Adam Cole might be the worst professional wrestler I've ever seen in my life. Dude, I have never seen a bad Jushin Thunder Liger match. Never. We're talking about a guy that stole the first WCW Nitro with Brian Pillman. Go back and watch that Nitro. Tell me there's a better match.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's the best match of the night. It's amazing. And I watched Adam Cole give this man a bad match, and I thought to myself, this guy fucking sucks. And it took me years to actually appreciate Adam Cole. Years to be like, oh, okay, you know what? He's got some of the goods. I believe it.
Can we all agree that Paul Levesque used him the best? Triple H booked Adam Cole.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Totally. No question.
He was so pissed at WWE that he went to AEW, and he's living out Vince McMahon's dream by becoming a manager. But so when I'm watching this show the other day, I thought to myself, I will never again say anything nice about Eddie Kingston. Like this might be I feel as harshly about this man as I do about the time I saw Adam Cole in New York. Like I was like, this was bad, man.
And you liked Eddie Kingston too, man. Yeah. You were like the Eddie defender, I guess, if you will, on this show.
Bro, I'm sorry. What I watched this weekend, like, dude, you just gave my 2 favorite wrestlers of all time are wrestling on the same show. That's impossible to say, right? Yeah. Like you have my 2 favorite wrestlers ever are wrestling on the same show, and you give my guy one of the worst matches in his career.
10 minutes.
Dude. I'm gonna put it to you this way. I'm gonna say it this way, and I'm not being hyperbolic. All right, I'm not. WrestleMania 28, Brian had a better match with Sheamus than he did with Eddie Kingston.
Well,
oh my god.
Well, I mean, listen. That's
at least we got to see him tongue AJ Lee.
Well, you know what? If anything, that match served as a big catalyst for his fucking push.
Yes.
Like that just got everybody behind him. That and the yes thing.
Yeah, exactly. And now what Sunday did to Bryan Danielson is it's just allowing him to just
it's the reverse of that.
Yeah, he's working his remaining dates. It was sad to see because again, 10 years ago, we got to see arguably the most electric building in a WrestleMania main event. Not when Hogan slammed Andre, not when Warrior pinned Hogan. Clearly Shawn Michaels beating Brett in overtime in the Iron Man match. I mean, these are all iconic moments in WrestleMania main events. But the optic of 70,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs with hand gestures pointing upwards when Danielson made Bautista tap. I mean, again, it feels like yesterday on the
more respectful to Batista.
On the very first usage of the WWE, which, by the way, I'll die on a hill. I love that app. App's a hell of a lot better to use than Peacock.
Oh no, it's noted. There's a whole catalog of videos of this fucking show where you've
I understand
it from day one. That's day one-ish for you.
I understand that. But again, you look at where Danielson is now. Again, he's working out his remaining dates. This is great. He's helping other talents, but very underwhelming part of the show.
Sucks.
In terms of another underwhelming part of the show, listen, I gotta tell you, I understand the role that Christian's playing at this stage of his career.
Oh,
okay.
Wow. Yeah.
This is crazy, Pat. I told you this is the worst match of the night.
I understand the role that he's playing now, and I get that he's being a great heel. He's always been a better heel than a face. That's true. I kind of wish they'd mix up this faction a little bit. Like if you're gonna have, the mom there, like she's kind of MILF looking, so show some tits, like show maybe a skimpy skirt. I don't know, whatever. Like something accentuate her, something. It just seems like Christian and Daniel Garcia going 30 minutes was I would not have booked them. Not 30 minutes. I'm sorry.
Somebody's got to go. Listen, lady, Uribe wants you to show a little more leg. All right?
Show a little more leg. Show your pelvis, for Christ's sake. No, but I wasn't really a fan of the early booking of the card per se in terms of time. I know Macho mentioned before we went on the air that in terms of how many minutes each match got, obviously, it was kind of spread in, far in between. But I mean, what I really liked about the show, obviously, the Ospreay. See, what Ospreay and Takeshita represents, and I had a bunch of people here at the Uribe compound.
Phenomenal talents, man.
Watching this, it was just amazing to me that clearly Meltzer ran out of underwear in his house. He probably already ranked it 75 stars out of 5. It was like, you could tell that was a indie darling match in the sense of the spots, the kickouts. That's indie wrestling, where there were points where obviously Macho was there. You can tell us, where Ospreay wasn't selling certain moves, and neither was Takeshita.
Yeah.
And they look like some really stiff shots. I get they're professionals. They can make it look, again, they're great workers. But you watch a match like that, and then you watch, again, the way WWE trains their wrestlers, their men and women at the PC. And you can get a match that's so much better with storytelling without having to do so much.
Tiffany Stratton has better matches than that, bro.
I mean,
Tiffany Stratton has better matches than that. Let's be honest. And
she's gotten better than last year.
But it's not even about the athleticism, Fern. It's about the psychology. It's about the storytelling. Her matches have more storytelling than that stuff. And I get it. I get that it's fetish wrestling. I get that it's indie wrestling. They're doing the strong style thing. Takeshita's Japanese. Will Ospreay wrestled in New Japan. I get all that shit, yo. But it's like it kills it. It kills it because nothing means anything.
It was 45 minutes. It was 45 minutes.
45 minutes?
Give or take. I think it was 40-ish. I mean, and, we're all there in the living room like, okay, this has got to be the move. The 37th super kick, the 5th Canadian Destroyer, the 12th stiff forearm. Like, I'm like, okay, at some point, someone's going to get knocked out or something. And sure enough, dude, like you saw the bumps that they took, and I said, this is great. This works for that audience. But bro, like Will Ospreay, okay, he signed whatever amount of years he signed with Tony Khan. By the time he gets to WWE, if he doesn't curtail his style, by the time he gets to WWE, he's going to be a shell of himself. He's not going to be what people think of Will Ospreay. And I just think that that's a detriment to him. And I think this, and again, before you roll your eyes, it's why I appreciate MJF so much, because he knows he doesn't have to do a lot to get over with an audience.
You appreciate MJF?
Absolutely.
No
I know.
But
it just
don't
seems
ever do that again.
What's that?
Don't ever mention Will Ospreay in the same sentences as fucking Mini Max.
No, but what I'm saying is that Max can tell a story and not have to do as much as what those two guys were doing.
That is true. That is true.
Like, he's being smart. Now, mind you, he's hurt. He's recovering from a torn labrum, I believe, which is really painful. I've had an inflamed labrum. I know what it's like. It's annoying. The point is that that match is perfect. What Pat said. It's a fetish appeaser. You're appeasing the
The
fetish.
thing is, like, I don't want to be rude or nothing because I really like you and stuff, even with your LA Night glasses on. But I wanted to just tell you that it's very
What about
clear
it?
that you don't watch a lot of Will Ospreay because Will doesn't always wrestle this way. He only does this shit when he works for
Macho, I
AEW.
get that.
He can actually work.
No, I get that. I mean,
Yeah, it's known.
No, listen, I've watched Will Ospreay matches for years. I remember 6 years ago when he fought Walter. I mean, that was a fucking great match in Europe. I mean, I've been watching him for a while. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just look at that match and yes, it was entertaining. We all were fucking laughing and marking out here like, oh my God, what the fuck? What's it going to take to get the pin here? Like a stab,
a gun,
puncture wound, slicing an artery. More on that later since it happened probably on the card. I mean, it was just like, whoa, great, entertaining match. But I mean, if you're Ospreay and Takeshita, like, how do you top that? It was like Omega and Ospreay. Like, how do you top that match from Sunday? It's like, okay, it's a classic AEW match.
Upon second viewing, I'd say the triple threat match topped it.
The what?
The world title match.
No. I would say that, but that's again, and I was let down by that match just because of the booking. I'm a huge Swerve fan. I'm a huge fanatic.
They're building towards that shit, though. That's what they're doing. They're building up the anticipation. So it made sense that Joe was going to retain. Magnum AP, he wasn't going to win it. You know what I mean? So you knew it was going to be Swerve eventually becoming champion, but they're building towards that. He's going to probably win it at Wembley. You know?
No, listen, he might win it at Dynasty next month. Who knows? Or Double or Nothing in Vegas. We'll see. But I was hoping Swerve would have won. Again, I think, listen, the highest point of the night for me was watching Steve Borden. And I think for once in a very long time in AEW's production history, the vignette before the match, the empty theater, seeing Sting look back on his career, I thought that was as well done as a vignette that you would ever see in AEW production. And we don't see a lot.
I agree with you. I felt like the way. So I want to make this perfectly clear because I said this to Pat and he agreed with me. The intention for WWE was never to have Sting lose every match. I firmly believe in my soul that based on his performance leading up to the Seth Rollins match, that he was going to lose that match to Seth because they were building their future, but he was going to continue to have feuds and matches with other people in the company.
Yeah.
But he got injured. So based on his age and based on what the injury was, he was forced into retirement by the company. So a lot of people that are like, oh, this is the way you put out a legend. This is the way Tony wanted to put out a legend.
Yes.
He didn't want Sting to go out on his back. But watching Sting be able to go out and then like I was thinking about it the whole drive there. I was like, man, my first match I'm gonna watch Sting wrestle, he's gonna lose. Like that's nuts. And then he won. So like the fan in me, the little boy in me that was sitting in my father's like sitting on my on the floor at my father's bedroom, like watching him and Ric Flair in that arena. Believe that or not, Uribe, the first wrestling match I ever saw was that 45-minute match. That's the first match I ever saw. That's why I fell in love with wrestling. That dude, Sting, that was the guy that did it for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing in 1988 up against WrestleMania 4 on pay-per-view and that Clash of Champions.
Well, that's the thing. My first WWE pay-per-view was Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart was SummerSlam. That was the first WWF pay-per-view I ever saw.
Amazing.
So I didn't watch WWF until the 90s. Like I didn't watch Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior like a lot of people did. Like I didn't watch that when it happened. I watched it way later from getting a VHS.
Sure.
But yeah, when I watched that, like I thought that was a really great way to put out a legend, to say goodbye to a legend. I thought it was really cool the way they did it. I also felt like having his kids involved the way he had them. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the still shots of all the Stinger splashes, but his younger son is like elated. Like he's jumped the Wolfpack face paint. When he jumps in the air for a Stinger splash, there's the still shot of him in the air. Dude, he's got the biggest smile on his face that I just got to do what my dad's been doing his whole career.
No, listen,
Like,
it was a great
so
optic.
cool, man.
It was a great optic. And again, like I said, like for the first time that I can ever remember Tony Khan with a great production project in that vignette before the match, the empty theater, the synopsis of the career, having his sons come out with him. I think it checked off every nostalgia box I think that you could have ever wanted as a fan when it came to that match. Now, to the match itself, I mean, you know, Texas Tornado rules. You knew it was going to be a street fight. You knew, obviously, there was that element of doubt where, we're the World Tag Team Champions. You know, you thought maybe Sting's going to go out losing, like a lot of wrestlers do in their final match. And, you know, aside from the Darby Allin bump, which looked dangerous, I mean, again, you know, we're talking about it could have come within inches of nicking an artery on him, and who knows, the guy could have bled out, for God's sakes. It looked dangerous. It looked reckless, but I get why that bump was, I guess, meaningful for that match. You wanted Sting to sort of fight for his life against the middle-aged Bucks. In the ring, you saw Sting taking super kick after super kick, the elite, whatever that double kick is, then the Meltzer driver, and then just going through a table. I mean, it was epic. You know, Ricky Steamboat getting involved, Ric Flair getting involved. I mean, it was an epic, you know, it was an epic conclusion to a wonderful career. I was shocked that Sting and Darby won, again, because the premise of like guys going out losing in recent memory, right? Kurt Angle, other wrestlers that we've seen take an L on their last match. It was, I think, refreshingly different. And to your point, Tony Khan was not going to let Sting go out like that. I think that the premise was, let's give this audience a memorable evening and let's give them a memorable night and closure. I think he did that. Now, what I don't like about the media scrum afterwards, and I'm not one to complain per se, but the notion of, okay, now you're vacating the tag titles because Sting's retiring, where you just had a guy pretty much because his partner got hurt, okay, defend the tag titles by himself for months on end. I'm not saying that's what Darby Allin has to do, but the idea of
you should just pick a partner.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's just, I get Tony Khan loves tournaments and he loves brackets, and you know, I get all that stuff, and that's Tony Khan loves that. But I think
he doesn't love it. That's just what he has to do because he doesn't know how to book.
Sure.
That's just what he feels he needs to do because he don't know how to fucking book. That's
correct.
it.
And I was surprised at the ending, but again, 40 years.
So they're vacating the titles?
Tony Khan said that the titles are vacant. A tournament will start tomorrow night on Dynamite to crown new tag champions, which I think will culminate at Dynasty next month. So it might be a month
versus FTR.
It might be a month long. Who knows? But I think, again, 40 years for a guy that's given a lot to the business, a guy who I would argue, and I know Pat's going to disagree with me, but for a guy that I've watched since 1987 in the UWF, teaming with Hot Stuff International and Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner, Hyatt, that faction. Again, I would look at Steve Borden as probably in the top 50 in the last half century. And I'm not going to name the numbers specifically, but he's definitely in the top 50.
What?
Top 50 in the last half century. Again,
he's top 10 all time.
Okay, well, again, what I'm saying to you is,
but don't take my word for it. Ric Flair said it. I mean, if his word doesn't mean anything.
No, that's fine. What I'm saying is, in the last half century, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of pro wrestlers that have come through different arenas, the territories, the main companies. I'm just saying that for a plethora of guys that we've seen in the last half century, he's a top 50 star, and I think that's not an insult to Steve Borden.
No, I mean it's not. I mean he's 5-0 and he's 5-0 against Hulk Hogan. He's better than Undertaker wishes he ever was. He's better than Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, he's one of the greatest ever. I mean, I don't know. There's only when I look at like people that are better than him in professional wrestling, I'd probably put Shawn up there, Eddie.
I mean, listen, I don't know who's to blame contractually for not making it happen about getting Steve Borden over to WWE sooner, to where, again, right, all we heard about in 2011 was, man, Sting's contract's up in TNA. Wouldn't it be amazing to see a dream match between Taker, who was still quite serviceable in 2011? Let's not get it twisted. He was still wrestling at a pretty good level, okay? And
my 2-year-old daughter could work Shawn Michaels to a 5-star match. Get the fuck out of here. Are you about to tell me that Undertaker was still working good matches? He was working like the Texas Jesus. Get out of here.
He was still doing his thing. He was still. After 2011, I think it was a little bit hard. I mean, look, the match with Punk was really good, but
all things considering,
that might be his last great WrestleMania match. I mean, even the one with Lesnar, the ending was really the big thing. The match itself wasn't all that.
With Bray Wyatt, God rest his soul, not a great match in Santa Clara. Not a great match. Not a great match with Cena. Obviously, we know what the premise was there. With Roman, by his own testimony and on A&E Legends, I mean, he was beaten up and broken down. He needed hip surgery. He wanted to pay. He wanted to get
his match with Goldberg wasn't good.
Well, that's because fucking Goldberg dropped him on his fucking head on another continent.
Yeah, but Taker, you just said that Taker wasn't healthy.
I might be in the minority.
He wasn't going to get healthy over that.
So what? So Bill Goldberg's not strong enough to lift him? Come on, that's absurd.
Certainly is strong enough now.
I don't know. I mean, saw him. Yeah, we've seen him lift some big fucking people. I might be in the minority here, but Sting versus Undertaker was never a dream match for me. Sting versus Shawn Michaels was always a dream match for me. That's always a match I wanted to see.
Yeah.
I remember me and Pat used to go to Pathmark and sit in the magazine aisles and read like wrestling magazines, and there was a wrestling magazine that had like WWF versus WCW, and the two guys on the cover were Shawn Michaels and Sting. And ever since I saw that cover, that's always been like my number one dream match. That's the match I've always wanted to see.
But Macho, maybe we can meet in the middle on this one. Maybe Pat will, either agree with me or disagree with me. But I think the reason that Sting and Taker was very compelling in the eyes of so many fans, I think, again, the mystique of their characters, the development of their characters, the evolution of their characters. I think at that time, again, if 2011 would have happened, like a lot of fans were hoping, whatever, I think it was a more comparable type of match where if it was Shawn and Sting, Shawn's exceedingly the better worker. I don't think
I'm not gonna disagree.
I think that for me personally, Shawn and Sting would be a better match because Shawn would be able to work to Sting's strengths a lot greater than, let's say, Taker could. And that's not a knock on Taker because Taker's very good too. Taker and Sting, the allure is the entrances, the characters, the dark persona, Sting with the crow makeup, the kabuki style stuff, Taker with the fucking longest entrance in the history of the fucking world. Maybe Roman comes close. Yeah, Roman's up there.
Roman's pretty close.
But it's like, I think it's just the optics of it, just the pageantry of it, the showmanship of it. I think with Taker and Sting, I could see that being alluring to fans. But for me personally, as a wrestling fan, Shawn Michaels and Sting, because Shawn would play to Sting's strengths and Sting would look like a fucking millionaire, and Sting would play to Shawn's strengths and throw him around and do all this crazy shit, and it would be fucking awesome.
And believe it or not, and even in 1998 WCW, like, I thought Bret and Sting would have been another dream match. I think a lot of fans would have liked.
I like that match.
Yeah, that's a good match. Both of their matches are good. Their Mayhem match and their Halloween Havoc matches are good.
The Mayhem match was better than the Halloween Havoc.
Yes, yeah. Sure. Again, it's a shame about what happened with not being able to reach some sort of agreement contractually in 2011. He ended up coming in 2014. The match with Triple H at WrestleMania 31, I think, was a good match for checking out the nostalgia boxes, right? I think that Triple H did really well with again, helping Sting during that match. Obviously, we know Sting was not going to carry that match. We know that Triple H is a great worker. I think there was great psychology. The storytelling for 6 months leading up to that match, I think, was great. It's unfortunate.
You said some ridiculous things on here. Like,
what do you mean?
That Triple H is a better worker than Sting?
What I'm saying in 2015, at that point in time, I think Paul Levesque helped him to a good match.
A little bit.
Get the fuck out of here.
Little
bit
my ass.
Little bit.
Match. We got to be a little intellectually honest here. 2015 Sting at that point.
A little bit.
Again, Paul Levesque, who was still not even serviceable.
Okay, hold on.
At that point. Hold on. Still,
do you? All right, let's separate it. Let's separate it then.
Okay.
All right. WrestleMania, Triple H versus Seth Rollins. Was that a good match?
2 years later,
It's okay. So here's the thing.
Well,
Sting versus Triple H is two legends working together.
No,
so that right there is already huge. Seth is not a legend yet. You know what I'm saying? Seth's certainly on his way. But
Seth versus Sting match was fucking phenomenal.
It was because Seth could bump around for him and Seth could do it. But Triple H did the same thing for Sting in that match. If you watch that match. You know what I mean? Like, he took a lot of Sting's heat, man. You know, he basically did the Ric Flair part. That's basically what Triple H did in that match. You know what I mean?
Ric Flair mark than MJF is. Of course he did.
Not bigger than Uribe. Not bigger than Uribe. Uribe's.
I mean, but again, that was a great match. I think that match should have been a little bit later in the evening. I think I would have liked a nighttime.
That's a big problem for people. A lot of people felt like Sting alone warranted coming out at night. It really took away from the match. Yeah,
I think, and I get that wasn't possible because later in the evening you needed Triple H and Stephanie out there for The Rock and Ronda Rousey. I get all that. So it's timing.
I thought that was still daylight.
It was dusk. It was around dusk, you know. But still, I get that the time. It was California, so it was still 5 o'clock over there, you know. Actually, no, wait a minute. I think that Mania wasn't at 8 o'clock. I think it was 6 or 7. It was broad daylight out in Santa Clara, so it was probably like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it was kind of hard.
Well, if it was 8 o'clock here, it was 5 o'clock there.
Yeah, and it was still broad daylight. So
you
know, it's late March. You know, it's already probably daylight savings time came and went. So, you know, it was kind of hard. It's like West Coast, you know, if you had it on East Coast, you know, outdoor stadium, you know, again, a nighttime entrance for Sting, that match would have been better. But I digress. I think the point is, I hate to sound like Taz with that one, but the point is that, you know, you look at Sting and you look at the totality at the end of his career, obviously, unfortunately getting hurt against Rollins, certainly taking some time off to heal up. And obviously Tony Khan offered him a lot of money, certainly booked him very strongly. Again, he retired undefeated. Darby and him retired as undefeated tag team champions. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, you don't think about that in modern wrestling terms, but that's what happened on Sunday. And again, I don't hate the booking at all. If there's a guy that deserved to really go out as victorious and as boldly and as, you know, I think strongly as anyone could have, it's Steve Borden. I don't got a problem with the booking. I know people were saying, well, he should have, I don't got a problem with the booking.
He should have lost. He should have lost. They should have done something to build up somebody younger. That's my biggest problem with this match, the fact that he didn't lose. And honestly, the other thing, you know, Sting's career might be over, but what about fake Sting? Where's Jeff Farmer? Where was he at? You know, nobody thought about inviting Jeff Farmer to this. You know, he was a big part of everything too. So, you know, maybe we'll see fake Sting's last match. I don't know.
Well, listen, I genuinely, I really thought that Sting was going to lose this match because of Flair. I thought, what a perfect way to go out.
That would have been
Flair
dope.
Screws Sting, because that's their whole thing.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard Bobby Heenan say it? Like, when is this idiot going to get it? That like we've heard him say that those exact words about Sting. When is he gonna get it? How many times does Ric Flair need to betray him before he realizes he's never his friend?
No, listen,
I expected it. I was wanting it. When I saw this Young Bucks super kick Ric Flair, I was shocked because I was like, I didn't think that was gonna happen. But
again, a great way out for
Ric Flair's right now at this. He's got a quicker pace in which he does chops and punches than Eddie Kingston.
That's right.
It was nice for Sting fans, but it fucking does nothing for the company. It does dick for the company.
Yeah,
it didn't do anything for anybody his entire tenure there. Let's be honest.
The only person he helped was Darby.
Yeah.
Even then, who the fuck is he in the grand scheme of things? Nobody really knows him outside of AEW fans.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's all they care about. I think that's all he wants. I don't think that kid wants to do anything other than wrestle for that company.
And again, I think Darby Allin's a guy who, that bump. Listen, the last 72 hours, Twitter, Instagram, all I've been watching, I guess because it's trending, is just like bad bumps, which has nothing to do with cocaine and Tony Khan or anything else. But holy cow, man. Darby Allin's fall from that ladder onto glass, and his back. It's
unnecessary. It's Sting's fucking last match. It should have been about Sting. It shouldn't have been about that fucking bump. That's stupid too.
Only 12 stitches. That's a miracle. But again, a great way to go out. Spot fest galore, but it was a great way for that audience in Greensboro that grew up watching Sting. And to Macho's point, right? Obviously, his first major match, his first major exposure in the mainstream was at that building. And what a fitting end for him. I think it was a great ending. Now, Tony Khan has to move on without a legend like Sting on the roster. He's not going to be able to sell out a building anytime soon based on the current roster itself. Again, it's not going to be Jericho. It's not going to be, Joe or Swerve or again, they might struggle to fill a building again for the foreseeable future in North America, but we'll find out again. But great ending to Sting's career. A guy who is, again, the icon, lived up to his name and walked out and left the business in a way that a lot of guys don't get to leave, with money, some notoriety, and just leaving where he feels at peace. And sometimes some guys overstay their welcome. Some guys go broke. Some guys maybe don't get to go out the way they would like. That wasn't the case on Sunday, guys.
So I'd like to say something about Sting's tenure here real quick in AEW, because I feel like there's this misconception about why he changed his style and he became this type of wrestler at the end of his career. And Mick Foley talks about this. He talks about it on his podcast, and he also talks about it in his book. Mick Foley, when he changed his style from Cactus Jack in the 80s and 90s, when he changed his style to the Mankind and the hardcore style, believe it or not, it was easier on his body to work that than it was to work a regular wrestling match. So a lot of people believe that working a regular wrestling match would have been easier for Sting, but he couldn't do it anymore. He had to change something up, which is why he did like the dives to so many people. Now, I agree with Pat. Some of these dives looked really bad because if these guys don't catch him the proper way, he could have, God forbid, he could have died right then and there because he at his age and the way he could have hit the ground. But fortunately enough, everybody that was getting ready to catch Sting loves the man so goddamn much that they made sure to put their bodies on the line to secure him to the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of people that have said that, like, why did he change his style? Why did he become this like version of like a Mick Foley or like a Cactus Jack? And he did it to preserve like this version of his career. Yeah. It wasn't just on a whim, like, oh, I'm going to tag with Darby Allin, so I have to wrestle his style. No, I think he just took a play out of Mick Foley's book.
It was,
I think his whole run in AEW, for the most part, was as useless as two tits on a nun. It was good for him. He made money. He did what he had to do. But at the end of the day, it didn't put anybody over. It didn't make the company any better. And it didn't leave him in a better place now that he's gone. It left him in a good place. And good for Sting. Fucking A. I ain't mad at him. Make your money, bro. Do your thing. But what did it really do? You know what I'm saying? Like Tony Khan being loyal to fucking Sting What did it do for his company? Nothing. His company's back to the same old shit now.
And
That
now
was the last draw. That was the last ace up his fucking sleeve.
Yeah.
Because you think Mercedes Moné is going to be able to do what Sting did? And his last match? No.
I mean, listen, we'll find out. We'll find out at the TD Garden in Boston next week. Right?
Well, I think a lot of him, the way he treated Sting, was in hopes that other legends would go there.
Okay.
And I think that was his intention. Like, I think he cares more about gaining wrestlers than he does about actually pleasing.
But he can gain wrestlers. He's got a fucking crazy checkbook. That's not the problem. He's proven that he'll fucking spend money on anybody. You know what I mean? That's not the issue. It's just a matter of like, yo, you have this legend, you have this company that's emerging, that's up and coming. Use the legend to put over these young kids, to make them known, to make them household names. Instead, he just used them like, fantasy booked him like, this is my favorite toy. This is my Sting figure. He's my favorite figure. And I'm going to play with him and he always wins. You know, that's exactly what he fucking did. And it was pointless, and it did not benefit AEW in any way whatsoever, in my opinion.
That's why I think it had to be the Young Bucks, because they're the only ones that could take the loss and it wouldn't matter. Now, if they would have worked almost any other tag team, like me and you, Pat, we talked about it the other day, the tag team that made the most sense based on Sting's style of work would have been FTR. This should have been
brothers.
FTR versus these two.
Yeah,
and
especially in North Carolina. Yeah.
But this actually, if Sting and Darby would have beaten FTR, it would have hurt that tag team more than the Bucks. The Bucks can take the loss.
Yes, and the
it
Bucks
doesn't hurt them because they fucking suck anyway. So it's not like.
And I think that the Bucks are kind of on a decline as well in terms of, you know, they're not what they were 5-6 years ago on the
Indies. One Bucks match, you've seen them all. They literally do every single thing that they do. They've done in every single match. Since the first time me and Pat saw them wrestle Ray Dragon. They've not done a single new thing.
Even the FTR brothers, like they've gotten into this situation now where they're like not even wrestling their best style either. You know what I mean? Like they're doing a lot of the indie garbage too, like everybody else. I mean, there's guys that know how to work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, how hard? Like, come on, Pat. You have to be pretty clear here. Like with FTR, you can't be so harsh on them. They're in the ring with a guy who's 1,000,000 times better than them in Jon Moxley. Like, you know, Mox is a different.
That's a real good sell, by the way. That's a real good sell there, by the way. Yeah, good sell there, pal. I mean, look, I think the FTR brothers, they've kind of worked like the indie style. They've kind of worked like the garbage style for a little bit. And I don't think that they should be doing that because they're better than that. And it's the same thing with Moxley. It's the same thing with Claudio. It's the same thing with Danielson. Like there's these other guys that like amidst all the chaos and all the insanity and all the uncoordinated stuff, you know that you have these guys that are fucking surefire professionals, like that you can count on to deliver good matches. Say what you will. I'm not the biggest FTR brothers fan. But, like, you know, they're a good fucking team. They know how to work. They do know how to work. And they can go out there and they can have good matches. But, I don't know. It's like they're just coasting. Like,
listen, I'm a big FTR, Mark. I think they're coasting, too, with whatever is left of their contract. I know they re-signed last year. It would make sense maybe that in the tournament, maybe it's, you know, a rematch from Sunday in the tournament finals, you know, the BBC – against the BCC, excuse me, against FTR at Dynasty.
Something on your mind?
You know, no, because I'm a member of the BBC. You know, me, Sydney, the shirt. I have a shirt. Ask Patrick. We're the BBC. We're the Bad Blood.
Don't ask me anything.
You know what BBC means?
He does have a shirt though, but don't ask me.
BBC, Bad Blood Pub. Yeah, that's our
not what it means.
Dante,
especially the youngsters watching this show.
Sydney, Levon, like our faction. Yeah, the BBC. Like that's our group.
It means something else, man. You know.
Yeah, it means.
All right. Well, I'm just going by by the Bad Blood Club. But anyway, so we'll see obviously where this goes with the tag titles lean into. But again, folks, Revolution, historic event, certainly a great gate for AEW this past Sunday. We'll see if they can replicate that maybe as soon as next Wednesday night at the TD Garden in Boston with Big Business on Dynamite. We'll see. Guys, some news here today. Obviously, later tonight on Vice, the season premiere of Dark Side of the Ring Season 5. And the first 2 episodes have been announced. Tonight will be the Ballad of Earthquake, the Tragedy of John Tenta. And next week will be Buff and the Bagwells, detailing Buff Bagwell's life and, of course, bringing his family along for it. But later on tonight in the season premiere, if you've watched the trailer, folks, it's a really sad ending to a guy who was main eventing SummerSlam with Hulk Hogan in Philadelphia at the Spectrum and was a main event heel for a lot of years. Was also a multiple-time co-holder of the tag titles with Typhoon as the Natural Disasters. Certainly, after leaving the WWE and going to WCW under different incarnations, the Avalanche, the Shark, just John Tenta. He did return in 1998 as a member of the Oddities, wearing a mask known as Golga. But tragic times for John Tenta. Obviously, after being let go by Vince McMahon, he was very determined to provide for his family, who he had been doing so for so many years. Started working retail, became a truck driver. Certainly developed a intestinal disease, which ultimately would take his life at only the age of 42. So, again, another dark side that's going to be tragic with John Tenta, with others as well. Certainly highlighting Black Saturday, Buff Bagwell, Brutus Beefcake, Sherry Martel. Some tragic stories, some redeeming stories. Again, another dark-sided season on Vice, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the show that probably shouldn't be around anymore based on the fact that every time they're around, like 5 or 6 other wrestlers have to leave the business. But I'm looking forward to watching it because it's like a fucking train wreck. You just can't look away. It's Russell. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm a fan of Earthquake. I always tended to like the bigger wrestlers, Earthquake, Bam Bam Bigelow, Big Van Vader. Was a fan of these guys. Big Boss Man, another underrated talent. So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. But yeah, he should have beat Lawrence Taylor, by the way. And yeah, I mean, he's main evented more WrestleManias than CM Punk, by the way. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Just I've always wanted to see like a specific dark side of the ring. So
I mean, it's tragic. I mean, his son is interviewed for a lot of it, and it's just tragic about what happens to a lot of guys in the business. You know, if for whatever reason, once your time in the spotlight's up, you know, if you don't plan for a future, if you don't, again, save your money for whatever reason, you know, you're relegated to working retail and drive. Again,
are we ever going to see the dark side of the ring on Bubba the Love Sponge and Hulk Hogan?
I don't know. That would be interesting. That could be like 5 episodes in itself. That could be a whole season.
Yeah.
Brother, I ate so much sushi.
But you know, we'll but again, certainly again, we'll see how it does this year.
It's depressing though. Who the fuck wants to watch that, bro? You guys are masochists, man. I don't want to watch that shit. I know how fucking sad the wrestling business is. I don't need to be reminded every week. Fuck that shit. I don't know, but that's just me.
I mean, again, you know, and it's interesting, you know, obviously with Pat rocking a Bam Bam Bigelow t-shirt. Next big story this week, obviously announced finally, the WWE Hall of Fame for 2024 class. Not sure if this is the headliner, but the first announcement is Paul Heyman. As we all know, obviously started his career as a photographer as young as 16 years old at Madison Square Garden with the old WWF, working for Vince McMahon. Obviously, Vincent K. McMahon's father. A guy whose evolution in the business started as a photographer, certainly became one of the best managers, if not the best manager in the history of the business in terms of who he's been aligned with. His promo work, obviously, starting ECW, making it such a viable third brand that people were watching it. I know a lot of us would stay up on
that was an actual third brand. That wasn't developmental. I just want to clarify that real quick.
Staying up overnight from Sunday into Monday on MSG Network here in the Northeast, watching ECW at 1 a.m. Eastern time. Certainly moving to TNN. We all know about the rise of Paul ECW. We all know the business side of Paul Heyman wasn't great, but The creative mind is still as great as it ever was. And if there's a guy that deserves to be a Hall of Famer, it's certainly Paul Heyman. Obviously, and what more apropos to do it in than in the city of Philadelphia, where Extreme was born. So again, I'd like to see more ECW guys. Bam Bam Bigelow, I think, a Jersey guy down from Asbury Park. I think most deserving this year. Again, with this being now Paul Levesque's Hall of Fame, it's going to be interesting to see who Paul's going to push in the Hall of Fame, how it's marketed, how it's produced. I think in the past, a lot of lackluster headlining classes, a lot of guys that remain still that have not been inducted, guys like the Midnight Express, teams like Demolition, the Twin Towers, the Natural Disasters. I mean, again, take it, the Lex Luger, the model Rick Martel. Again, I know Paul likes to make the marks a little happy. We'll see what occurs. Here's my pick for the Warrior Award this year, and a guy who's going to be featured this Sunday on A&E Legends on A&E. I would argue that a guy who deserves the Warrior Award for courage is a guy who's made an enormous difference in the lives of a lot of ex-wrestlers, and that's Diamond Dallas Page. But what he's done to help guys recoup their lives, beat addiction, get them healthy. Listen, you want to give the Warrior Award to somebody, Page wouldn't be a bad pick this year.
Yeah, I like that. I'm a fan of that. I think that's cool. I mean, the way he was able to help Butterbean and Jeff Bagwell looks completely different now. I mean, or Marcus Alexander Bagwell, whatever the fuck you want to call him, Buff Bagwell, whatever. Yeah, no, DDP does a good job. He does. He's doing great. Those are some small arms, and I feel like, I feel no te pongas mono, and then he's just like he's one of those really good guys. I mean, and he has my all-time favorite Sting match too, so good for him.
I know Pat's not a big Hall of Fame. I
don't really care either way, but yeah, sure, DDP. Feel the bang.
Well, that's for the Warrior.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. No, I know all that. I get all that, but whatever. Who cares? What about Jimmy Miranda? Let's have the Jimmy Miranda Award. I could one up you on that Mark shit right now. Let's do the Jimmy Miranda Award. That's another one you always see trending.
Or Vladimir, give Vladimir.
But what's the obsession with the fucking Hall of Fame with the marks? Like, let's talk about this. Let's unpack this a little bit here because
Patrick, it's no different than anything else.
I'm confused. What are we talking about here? Because I feel like I'm way out of the loop in this conversation.
I just feel like the marks get like a little too touchy, a little too sensitive. A little too butthurt about the Hall of Fame, about who should be there, who shouldn't be there. There's reasons why, man. I think there's reasons why certain people end up there and other people don't. You know what I mean? Some people don't want it. Let's think about that. There's wrestlers out there that don't want to be in the Hall of Fame.
It's no different. I think that for a lot of us, nostalgia and fans of history that enjoy it's a work, it's a gimmick. I get that, but the same reason people tune in for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and in real sports like the MLB Hall of Fame in Cooperstown or in Canton in August for the NFL or the NBA in spring for Magic. Like there's an element of nostalgia that a lot of fans enjoy. And I think that's what this accomplishes. Like it enables us as fans to say, hey, we appreciate him or her who did this for the business. It's great to see the speeches, the people that, induct them. I think it's great storytelling. It's great nostalgia. Again, I like it. Having gone to some Hall of Fames, I liked it. It's, again, as a history fan, a history teacher, someone who appreciates history books, it's great. And especially for wrestling fans that, it's a business that has claimed the lives of a lot of guys and girls over the years for different reasons. But the point is when, if we can see, obviously, Paul Heyman being announced this week, we'll see what the gap will be until Paul announces somebody else leading up into Philadelphia. And
I hope it's the go-home show. I hope it's the go-home SmackDown.
But, great teams that entertained us from our adolescence into our adulthood, from Demolition to the Twin Towers to the Natural Disasters to the model Rick Martel to
I get it, Fern, and I understand it from the entertainment perspective, and the sake of having it, and watching it and all that stuff. But does that make the Midnight Express any less of a great tag team? Are you going to look at them any different because they're not in the Hall of Fame? Like, no, they're still one of the fucking best tag teams ever. It doesn't mean shit.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
I get that, but if you're gonna have the Rock and Roll Express in there, a team that's just as equally comparable and responsible for the success and vice versa, they should be in there as well. That's all I'm saying. Like from a nostalgia point of view, as fans, it gives, again, if for nothing else, you're gonna get more subscribers to Peacock and the network because people are gonna want to watch, footage, merch, possibility.
I get it. I get it from that perspective. I do, but just it doesn't really matter. Like, you're still going to look at these people the same. Like, I don't look at Dynamite Kid as any less of a fucking wrestler just because he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame. I don't. He's still one of the best to ever fucking do it. Chono, fucking Kabashi, Hayabusa. All those guys are legends, No,
again, you're absolutely right. I just think as a fan of history and liking ceremonies like that in any industry, Forget about wrestling, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, NFL, MLB, whatever. The nostalgia, seeing these legends up there, if they're capable of being there, if not their families telling. I just think it's a good, heartwarming component of WrestleMania weekend. It has been for quite some time. That's all I'm advocating for.
Okay. Hey, that's fair. I guess we're just gonna have to agree to disagree.
Well, guys, we're about to wrap up here. We're just about a few minutes before the hour here. But again, a great show here. A lot to unpack. Obviously, we did run a little bit long on Revolution, but why not? We're highlighting the career of Steve Borden. And what better guy to, in recent memory, let's be honest, for a guy that has consumed wrestling for the last 40 years, for many of us that watched him from adolescence into adulthood, this is really one of the last guys, if not the last guy of a generation to retire and to be gone from the wrestling business. I mean, by and large, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, all the other legends from that era, I mean, they're pretty much already retired. They've moved on to different phases of their career. It's great to see Sting, again, still alive, number one, B, still mobile, C, still coherent and active, and
still stinging.
And you know what? Hey, it's really the end of an era, I think, for a lot of us, for our childhood and for our adolescence in terms of being wrestling fans. So again, to Steve Borden, I applaud him. I'm grateful I got to watch him and was entertained for so many years of my childhood and also into my adolescence and adulthood. Guys, let's wrap it up here. What we got coming up here, guys? What should we look out for?
As in what?
Well, anything coming up, I know Mach does other podcasts as well. Anything good coming up for you, Mach, as well as for
yeah, Saturday, Tyler and I will be doing the Must Love Wrestling podcast, so you can come over and listen to us. We'll probably be reviewing this show. We'll also be talking about whether or not this whole Liv Morgan, Nia Jax, and Becky Lynch 3-person feud is taking away from the direct feud of Becky versus Rhea.
No, they're gonna build that up. Come on. But anyway,
what do you mean build that up?
They're gonna build that up with like 2 weeks left, man. They're gonna do it the right way. They're not gonna blow it out. They're gonna do something to keep these girls that are happening right now, that are relevant now, doing stuff on TV, because they're probably not gonna be on Mania, or they're not gonna be in the spot that Becky and Rhea are gonna be in.
Becky and Rhea, man, move into a fatal 4-way.
Nah, I don't think so, dude. They want to do that match 1-on-1. They're fully committed to it. But we'll see. Yeah, anything could change.
Yeah.
I mean, agreed. Yeah. So we'll touch on that, and then we'll also talk about whether or not Seth Rollins should ever touch a microphone again.
Oh my God, dude. Brutal. Wasn't it brutal? Wasn't it just fucking brutal?
You know what I found so odd before Uribe goes is this man goes to the media, right? And he's like, I don't think that stuff's scripted. I think they just kind of give him bullet points and say, hey, when you're in the media, this is how you have to sell the feud. This is just my assumption, just me. I don't know if this is true or not. Right? And this guy goes out there, and part of his shtick that he's been doing on The Rock is The Rock, he's regurgitating and recycling his old stuff. It's always going to be the same old shit, this and that and this and that. And then your response is to go out there on Monday Night Raw after The Rock cuts like pretty much 40 minutes of an amazing promo against you, and you use his shtick against him. Like, you're going to be better at what he does instead of just doing what got you to where you are.
Yeah.
Using your Messiah shit. That what got you here. It was so odd. And you know what? It was so bad that it took away from how good Cody was.
And even Cody kind of came off a little, I don't know.
It looks so out of place.
It's hard, dude. It's hard. And this is why I say, man, look, they're very talented. Cody is the guy. Seth is one of the guys. But you know damn well that CM Punk would be able to keep up with Rocky, no problem.
He has.
He wouldn't have to go to the well. He wouldn't have to do it. Yeah, but I'm talking about like right now. Right now is a different thing because, you know, it's a movie star. You know?
No, listen, he did it 11 years ago. He could still do it now. Pat, what you got coming up for us?
Nothing, bro. I ain't got shit coming up. This fucking show. That's it. This is what I do. You know, I'm not like you. I don't have another show. I'm not like him. I don't have another show. I'm not like D. I don't have another show. This is my one and only show. This is the show that I show up for. Okay? Unlike someone down there, you know.
Speaking of other shows,
I make time for this show. You know.
Speaking of other shows, guys, tune in this Monday for Real Talk. I'll have the
Wait, you better guarantee right now you'll be here for Pat's final 3 shows. Guarantee it to the media.
I can do that. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And folks, this Monday night at 6:05 Eastern Time, the interim president of New Jersey City University, who's been helping.
6:05? What are we watching? Fucking Superstation?
I know, that's right, CBS. The interim president of New Jersey City University, Andres Acebo, who's helped turn around this one of the better urban universities in the Northeast, will be my guest this Monday night on Real Talk. We'll talk about academia, more Latino representation in academia, of course, and the importance of that. All that and much more, folks, this Monday on Real Talk. Check it out on Jersey First TV. Folks, he is Macho Rodriguez, Pennsylvania's premier wrestling analyst and lover of fat girls everywhere. Of course, Macho Rodriguez. Dale Huevo over there in Weehawken, the Puerto Rican prince of wrestling analysts. And, of course, I am New Jersey's premier journalist, folks. And I'll say it, the most handsome priest that runs the place. Fuck that. I'll say it with pride. Fernando, Uribe, folks, we're talking wrestling. We're always working the marks on Famcast Media. Have a great night, everybody.
Famcast Media.